Because often people like, whenever you mention king, people always imagine a king with a staff in his hand and sitting on the throne and ordering everybody around and certain protocol. And that's king, right? Whenever you say king and queen, people think celebrities, those people that everybody knows. That's what it comes to their mind. But I want to speak tonight on the heart of the king. Because if the king's heart is in the right place, then his head in the right place. If the heart of the king is not in the right place, then he's a disaster. Not disaster for his nation, but disaster for the world, because his decision is not going to impact one person or two person or three person. It's going to impact each and everybody who comes under his leadership, not just only under his leadership, but all over the world. Because the king, when king makes decision, ripple effects happen. You know, the effects happen like ripple effect. It's go through one thing to another thing. It is very important. I don't know how many preachers have preached the heart of the king, but God put this perspective on my heart to share with you so you can understand that if your heart is not right, your life is not right. If your life is not right, your relationship is not right. If your relationship is not right, then you will never be right in your life. You will never be able to succeed in your life. So today, I want to talk on that. And I believe this message will bless you. You will leave with a new perspective. You will leave with a new thinking. I believe your mind will change. You know, everybody says, oh, it is new year, new goals, new resolution, new plans and new ambitions. But I'm telling you that if your heart is not changed, whether you enter into 2021 or 2022 or 2023, you will never be the same. You will never change. You will always be the same person. You know, people sitting around you and fellowship around you, they can take so much. But if they keep meeting the same person over and over again, I know people tend to give up on you. They said, oh my God, I don't want to take his call because every time I take his call is the same stuff. He's telling me the same thing over and over. Stop complaining about it. Do something new. Get up off of your chair, you know, put that thing down and you know, put your computer down and get off the chair and do something new. You talk about big plans and big things, and you're going to do this in 2022, or you're going to do that in 2022, or you're going to plant this business or this church or this ministry, but nothing is happening in your life. Because why nothing is happening in your life? Because your heart is in the wrong place. Your heart is not in alignment with God. But if your heart is not in alignment with God, then you're screwed. If you look at the car tire, four tire has to be aligned. Why do you have alignment? It has to be aligned in order for it to operate correctly. But how do you expect to get your car alignment, but not alignment of your heart with God? You're talking about like changing people, but you're not being changed. You're not improving. You see every single thing you can change about somebody. You say, oh, I would like to change this thing about you or that thing about you. But I would like to see, have you ever had a fellowship with yourself? I'm telling you that you need to just have a cup of coffee with yourself. You need to take yourself on the date and see that, oh, you're taking people on the date and say, oh, I didn't like the way she said. I didn't like she just gobbled down the whole steak. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I don't like this thing about him, but you know, I can point million things about other people to change. But if I don't change myself, But if I don't point myself, that means that I don't have the heart of the king. Because if we have a king, a leader who's a selfish, he is going to perpetuate after his own kindness. You know, people tend to like, it's a very famous saying that, uh, I will tell, if you tell me the kind of people you hang around, I will tell you your future, right? But I say that, you can, at some point, it's true, but also other point, I disagree with this. Why do I disagree with it? Because you can hang around with good people, but with same evil heart. You can hang around some good people, rich people, but if you have a poverty mentality, come on, and you don't want to bless somebody, don't want to give somebody, don't want to open your wallet, don't tell me that you're going to be rich because you're hanging around rich people. Right? Because you have to, if you're hanging around with the rich people, if they open their wallet 10 times and then you didn't open your wallet one time, they're like, don't bring him next time. Because every time he comes, he's just like on us, Things change. So let's pray right now before I read the sermon to you. Lord Jesus, I thank you for this wonderful opportunity. God, I praise you, honor you, glorify you, worship you. You are my healer, defender, protector, redeemer. You are my shield. You are my God. You are my hiding place, God. You are my fortress. Under the shadow of your wings, I find peace and comfort, God. If I go to the wall, there is no peace. There is a war, rumors of wars, there's disagreements, opinionated. God, everybody intoxicated with their own self. Everybody's intoxicated and they want to release their intoxicity on others, on somebody else. But God, I come to you. I don't care whether it's Republican or Democrats. I don't care what opinions, whether they're conservative or liberal. It doesn't matter, God. But I come to you because my strength comes from you. My salvation comes from you. My redemption comes from you. Because God, my freedoms comes from you. And God, as Psalm 121 says, where does my help come from? It does not come from left or right or east or west. It comes from the Lord. I lift up my eyes to you because my help comes from you. And Lord, tonight as I preach not milk but meat, God, we are hungry for it. God, give us a new perspective, new heart, so we can absorb this, so we don't vomit it out because we cannot handle meat. We are so used to milk. And God, tonight I want the revelation to be downloaded. God, let your spirit manifest here like never before. Let us have new experience. I know there's wars happening all over the world, but God, we kneel down and ask peace from you. As long as you are on our side and we are on your side, then we're going to live in a peace. God, I don't say peace all the time, but when trouble time comes, we're still trusting you, God. We thank you, we honor you. In Jesus' mighty name, we pray. Amen. So, in 2017, although I'm not very good with as I was telling you, not very good with my schedule, And I'm very excited. I think that was a lifetime opportunity. I always dreamed about going to Israel. Reading about Israel in Bible. A lot about Israel. I think Israel is the only nation, the nations that said to belong to that God's nation. It belongs to God. It's a God nation. You talk about Abraham is there. You talk about Jesus is there. You talk about Jesus walking in the streets of Jerusalem temple. You talk about all these things. And I'm reading about this over and over again. And even when we pray, we say the God of Israel, right? The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And I'm like, I want to go to that place, go to that nation one day. And when I open my passport, Pakistani green passport, when I open that passport, and on the passport says, you can go all over the world but Israel. And I'm like, wow. being born in Pakistan, and I always desire to go to the place where Jesus Christ born. I want to see that place. I want to experience that place. And then I find out on my passport that the big hurdle for me, you cannot go to Pakistan. I mean, you cannot go to Israel as being a Pakistani citizen. So when I came to America, I gave up on that in Pakistan. So when I came up in America, so after a few years, when I got my American passport, I said, forget about Pakistani passport. No offense to all the Pakistani that are watching right now. I still love the Pakistan nation. But I'm like, I want to go to Israel. So getting American passport was a great thing because now I can travel all over. I can travel to Israel. And so excited about Israel, booked my hotel. I was taking a tour with me and all these people. And I was like, I'm going to go to Israel. And I was going to meet my good friend there in Israel. He's a Messianic Jew. So I was like, all right, so he's going to host me and, he's going to show me around. So excited. Been to so many nations, never had any problem. And let's go to Israel now. So when the very first journey, haven't even gotten to Israel. So when I booked the flight from New York to go to Israel, so I arrived at the airport a little late. And that little late got me to miss the flight to go to Israel. And now the rental car, the hotel, all the plans, I already invested so much money into just back off, because I missed the flight. So what I did, right on the standing there, at the airline, I said, I would like to buy a new flight to Israel. She was like, all right, it's right now? I said, yes, right now. So I would like to buy it. I don't care how much it's going to cost me. So it's cost me like twice the whole entire my ticket was. So I paid it right there. And I was like, well, that's the cost for me to go to Israel now. I have to pay the cost. So now travel 10 hours to land in Israel, all tired, exhausted. And when I get to the Israeli airport, and they tells me, because everybody's in a line is going to immigration, and somebody was look at Israeli intelligence, look at me because I look different, I'm brown. Last I checked, right? So they tells me hey, come on in this, the sideways. So they pull me aside in the room and they just have me sit there. And I'm sitting there half an hour, first of all, and I'm wondering what's happening. And then after half an hour, the lady come into the room and then she started asking me where I was born. I was born in Pakistan. Have you traveled Egypt, all other countries, the Syrian countries, or Jordan? I said, I never traveled other places. She was like, oh, so your name is Adnan Maksud, which is Arabic name. And in Israel, Arab and Israel conflict, everybody knows. And my name is Adnan Maksud, which is a big no-no, in Israel. So now they started taking my fingerprints. Now they are checking me if my fingerprints match with other terrorists. All this process, and then they go in and out, in and out, in and out of the room. And then with the cameras, they're watching me while I'm alone in the room. They're searching, they're running background checks. It's over. Now it's 2 hours. And I'm I'm still sitting at the airport. So I called my friend. They said, who do you know in Israel? So I was like, I know my friend is an Israeli born. So let me call him. So he's my host. So I called him, and I was like, man, they held me here for 2 hours. I'm still here. He was like, well, Adnan, I cannot do anything because you got to go through this process. Because that's the Israeli government. So now, third hour passed, and I get really, mad because now it's 3 hours, and I'm still sitting at the airport. I tell the lady, I was like, hey, ma'am, with all due respect, if you're going to let me enter into the country, I will be more than happy to visit because that's why I'm here. But if you don't want to do that, please give me my passport. I will be on my way back to New York because I don't want to spend more time here in the airport because I don't know what you guys doing. She was like, oh, with all due respect, sir, we're just trying our best, and we're just running all this security check. We want to make sure you're a legitimate person. And now they're asking question about my father and if he been here or anything, and so much went through. So finally, First of all, I had to pay the double cost to get on the airplane, then had to face, the Israeli immigration, and then all these things. And finally, I get into the country, and I am, wow. When I started driving, got my car, started driving. So when my very first 2 nights was stay in Tel Aviv. So stayed in Tel Aviv, was very good, wonderful. But when I came to Jerusalem, it just felt like I'm home. You can say like far away from home, but still in home, right? So I felt like I'm in home, and I could tell you like walking on the cobble streets, stone, and just experiencing and remembering that Jesus Christ was walking on these streets. Once upon a time, Jesus Christ walking about on the streets, and miracles and signs and wonders was happening. People's lives were being changed. And people were coming to know Jesus Christ. That was a new movement happening in Jerusalem, right? People didn't like him there. And did it stop Jesus from preaching? No. He kept going. And Jesus preached in Jerusalem, Samaria, other places, Galilee. And I've been all these places traveling in my car, just taking photos. It's like I was like in Israel, I was like a kid in a candy store because I was so fascinated. I don't know how many of you have been to Israel, but has anybody been to Israel? Yes. Am I describing something correct, ma'am? Yes. So, and seeing all these things is just like amazing. I loved it. And it was like a tremendous experience. If you've never been to Israel, go to Israel. What you've been is the Bible becomes live. Hallelujah. The Bible becomes live. You can see all the things. And my friend telling me, oh, here David fought, the King David was fighting here with the Philistine, and that's where he slayed the enemy. That's where was the Goliath, and this and that. And that was just like phenomenal picture. My faith always, it's been increased more. When I see all this, it's just like whole new experience. And I am like, wow, fascinated with all this. So the reason I want to talk about Israel, because I'm going to talk about the Israel second king. Or the third king is the most particularly, because the first king, Israel, was a Saul. So Saul was anointed by Samuel. So when he was anointed, because although God didn't want Israel to have a king, but finally they have a king now. And now God even said, when you have a king, God said all the things. If you get the king, this and this and this and things, he will get your children. Your children would have to fight for him. You would have to pay him, salary and all these things. And now the king came. So Saul is the king of Israel, the very first anointed king of Israel. But I'm not emphasizing on the king, but I'm not now talking about his heart. Although he's a king of Israel, but was his heart aligned with God? That's the real question I want to deal with tonight. Where was his heart? Being a leader and making decisions that not only going to impact one or two people, but whole nation. It is going to shape the course of nation. The future is in the hand of king. Any wrong move or decision is going to annihilate the existence and importance of the nation's future. Because it is very important for you as a leader not to be arrogant or caught up in your ego. Because when you are caught up in your ego or arrogancy, then you are missing the point. Leaders are not master. They are not people to be served. If you understand the principle of leadership is a servanthood, my friend. If you are not serving, you are not a true leader. You just only have the position. Position does not make the leader. It is the leader that makes the position. Because often people caught up with the position. Oh, no, I have a position. I can abuse her. The rights and the power. I can just lead people. Because I'm not taking no for an answer, right? Shaking your neck. You know, it is very important for us to understand that if we are placed in a leadership position, it is not just because now you're the boss. Everybody has to ask permission. You sign the paycheck. Leadership is beyond signing the paycheck. It is beyond leading people. It is not just only leading people, but caring for people. You know, I love what Maxwell says. He said, you can love people without leading, but you cannot lead people without loving. You got to love people before you lead them. Because if you don't love people, you will drive everybody into hell. Because I will be very, very scared to have a person driving a car for me who just got a license. And even don't even have a license, right? I'll be like, I'm nervous. I don't, right? Because I'm nervous now. Because I don't know like how you drive. You don't have any experience. And now I'm in a car with you. I'm afraid of car being wrecked and me going to heaven today. I am just afraid. And that's very important for us to is to when you are placed in a place of leadership, in a position of leadership, your heart has to be right. It has to be prepared. It has to be in alignment with the purpose and ambition and vision, whether it's a company or it's a church. Because if you put a person, inexperienced person, in a position of a leadership, they will not only destroy themselves, but they will destroy you as well. It is very important for us. This microphone cannot handle me, right? Because when you are placed in a position of leadership and your heart is not right, then you are going to be making decision that is going to destroy life, not economy. Economy is after. First is a life, because your life is important. Each and everybody's life is important, not in the church, but in the kingdom of God. Because if you are going to heaven today, it is the responsibility of God to take care of, right? Because he is the king. The Bible describes his kingdom is everlasting kingdom. He is the Alpha and Omega. He's the first and the last. He's the beginning and the end. And there is nothing beyond him or after him. He is the everlasting God. He's omnipresent. He's omnipotent, all powerful, no wondering, no knowing. He knows the answer before the question. There is no equation that he cannot solve. He can solve every single thing. He knows the numbers. He knows the pluses. He knows the minuses. He knows everything. Nothing surprises my God. Nothing surprises him. Tomorrow doesn't surprise him. Next decade doesn't surprise. It might surprise you, but it doesn't surprise him. Because he's the King of Kings. He's not just a king, but he's the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, mighty God, all-knowing. Oh, no wondering. He doesn't wonder. He doesn't have to ask himself a question, am I king? He doesn't have to say to himself, oh, am I be king tomorrow? Because nobody's electing him. You don't have to vote him in because he's a king. Before you were born, before your opinions were born, before your ideas came to pass, he is the king, eternal king. He was before the time. Did you know that? He was before time, but when the time became into existence, he was still king. Because he's a king. And when you look at the heart of God, because he loved his people. He loved his people. I was watching a Lion King movie. I was watching Lion King movie. In the movie, although the past or older movies I watched, never watched it with the lens of what I can watch right now. Because God had to give me a new perspective on this movie. And when I was watching, and I was like, I had my heart on this, and Mufasa says to young king, who's supposed to be Simba, the king, after his own dad, he tells him that that's his lesson. He said, while other thing what they can take, but true king knows what to give. Right? Because leader, who is the king, he wants to give. He doesn't take. Because if he taking, then that's not a leader. That's a manager. And now people say, well, what's the difference between manager and leader? Manager, manage. But leader, lead. Nobody likes to be managed. Do you like to be managed? I don't like to be managed. I like to be led. You can lead me, but you can't manage me. And I'm going to have a very hard time with somebody who is a manager, because they're going to try to manage me, but I'm not meant to be managed. Why? Because I'm a leader. I like to be led. And if you are not leading, then you are managing. And if you are managing, then people don't like to be managed. Manager, manage companies, but leader, grow company. They grow economy. They grow churches. They grow, right, businesses. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be manager. I want to be leader. And you cannot be leader without following a leader. You can never be king without following a king. If you do not follow a king, you will not be a king. And in order for David to be a king, he had to follow the king, even the one who hated him. How many people in your life that they're leading you, but they don't like you? Right? And you're wondering and asking yourself question each and every day, why am I not growing? Why am I the same person what I was 10 years ago? Because you are following a manager. You are not following king. You got to follow the king. You got to follow the leader. Then that's how your life will be changed. And I want to read from the book of Proverbs 21, from 1 through 3. It says, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, like the rivers of water. He turneth wherever he wishes. Every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs the heart. To do righteous and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. Yes. Amen? I just feel the anointing hit me right now when I say that. Because everybody is right in their own eyes. They think they are right, always right. They don't need anybody advice. They don't want anybody intervene. Even in that person is thinking about helping you, but because of your ego, because something is there. Because everybody thinks they are right. And when you have this kind of culture, that everybody is in war with each other, because everybody thinking they are right. They don't need correction. They don't need improvement. But if you're not improving, if you're not developing, then you're not growing. If you're not growing, then you're stuck. If you're stuck, then you're stable. If you're stable, then you're not going nowhere. Forget about going to Chicago, because you will not be there. If your life, if your heart, if you're not improving. If you're thinking about you're going to get there in a Hollywood, you're not going to go, because you have to make some adjustment in your heart. You have to make some right decision in order for to be where God calls you to be. Because you cannot expect to lead without being led. If you're not being led, you cannot lead. And if you cannot lead, you cannot help people, because you are yourself is not being helped. And that is why the Bible says that the heart of the king is in the hand of the Lord. Because no matter how big leader you are, no matter how big title you got, but if you're not under the presence of God, if you're not being led by God, then you are not going to do anything. You cannot make any difference without not being led. And the Bible also talks in Matthew 6:21, for where your treasure is, there your heart will also be. Because everybody got a thing. And everybody got a thing. And because of that thing, they are where they are. And if your priorities are not in the right place, then you are not going to go anywhere. Often people say, oh, your education makes you. No, 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 no. Your education does not make you. Your priorities makes you. Your decision shapes you. Right? You have to have the right decision in order to get into the right place. Right now, the very reason your life is messed up, it's not because your neighbor's fault. It is your own. You have to be now man up or woman up. Right? Get your priorities right and get in the right alignment with God. And the greatest king ever lived, the Bible says that the most wise king, the wiser than any king among the kings, and it was King Solomon, right? The David's son. And how was he David's son? Through Bathsheba. And how did he get Bathsheba? Bathsheba is Uriah's wife. And now, things are exposing now, right? So the very first son, David, although God said, I found a man after my own heart, but even he committed a sin. Not just committed a sin by taking someone else's wife, but also got him killed. And now he has his wife, and now he has a baby with her. And when the baby comes, he cries, and he lay prostrate on the ground and cry and want to rescue the baby. But God said the baby is going to die. Now the king got the decree from the King of Kings, the baby is going to die. And now when the babies die, he mourns and all this thing. But as soon as he hears the voice, the baby is dead. Even his officials are scared to tell him. He said because the king, when he knew that baby was not dead, he was rolling on the ground. He was going crazy. But think about it. As soon as we tell him the baby is dead, he might go crazy on us. So we might not tell him right now what's happening. But when he heard the whisper, the baby is dead, he gets up, washes his face, and eat. And yes, food. Israeli food. So he gets up, washes his face, and started eating. And the prophet walks in and said, now you're eating? Your baby is dead? He said, baby is gone now. Because the time he was on the earth, I could prevail. I could cry. I could ask God to forgive me. Let the baby live. I could fight with God. I could ask God, please let the baby live. I don't want the baby to die. Please forgive my iniquities, the sin of my youth. Please forgive it. Because I don't want the baby to die. But the baby dead now. Why should I cry? Because some of us are still crying about yesterday, what happened in their life, the job they lost. They are still worried about that. But I'm telling you right now that God is ready to do a new thing in your life, and you ought to be ready. And you ought to be ready. If you're not ready, you're not going to receive it. It is a time to seize your moment. It is a time to pray for new opportunity. It is a time to ask God, give me a new revelation. I don't want to live based on the yesterday, what happened yesterday. I lost something yesterday, but today I'm going to give my yes to God because I know in my soul, in my heart, that today is a new day. Today is a new beginning. And I'm going to make the best of this opportunity. I'm not going to sag about it. I'm not going to cry about it. I'm going to let it go. I'm not going to just live my life the way I lived it before. I don't care if you hurt me one time, 2 times, 3 times, but I'm going to forgive you. It doesn't matter that I agree with you, but it's a matter that I don't want to put up the fight that is not even worth for my life. It is not worth for my destiny. It is not worth where I'm going. I need to let it go so I can go where God wants me to go. Because often people are still worried about what happened yesterday. They're trying to take a revenge. I think the ugliest thing you can do in your life ever is to try to take a revenge. Because you are, by taking a revenge, are you thinking about you are going to destroy the person. But you're not destroying a person, you're damaging yourself, your attitude, your mind, and making you evil. Who likes to be evil? Nobody likes to be evil. But if you are trying to take a revenge, you have to go to the level, that person that who hurt you at that level. If you go to that level, then that means you have to go down. If you're going down, that means you're not going up. And if you're going down, that means you cannot teach somebody else. If you cannot teach somebody else, then people are not going to trust you because you have a spirit of revenge in you. You are bitter. And nobody likes to follow a leader who is bitter, who is angry about yesterday, who just thinking in his heart, how can he destroy you? Who just thinking about in his head that how can he just annihilate you, remove you from existence? Because if you are that type of person, that you need to look at your life today. You need to understand that God, I understand that you have a better plan for my life, for tomorrow. Maybe today I'm not laughing, I'm crying, but for sure I'm tomorrow by morning, I am going to, the rejoice is going to come. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be better and not bitter. Because a lot of people wants to be bitter about yesterday. I want you to be better, not bitter. Because if you're bitter, you need to get better. If you get better, God will help you get into the place. Because some of us are thinking still like, that person did so and so. How can I take a revenge? But my theology, my principle is, if somebody did something wrong to me, I'm going to step away and leave the result on God. Because I'm not going to go back. I'm going to forgive it. Soon as I get offended, I let it go. Soon as I get offended, I let it go. Because I'm not a manager. I cannot manage things, right? I cannot manage the affairs of my life from past year. I got to let it go because I know God has a good, better things for me today. If I'm going to be impacted today by the presence of God, if I want God to do new things in my life, then I have to let go from the grief of yesterday, the sorrow of yesterday, the mistakes of yesterday, the problems of yesterday. I need to let it go, because if I didn't let it go, I will constantly become bitter. If I become bitter, I'll become angry. If I become angry, then I do wrong things. Then I become evil. And that's what King Saul did. When he was rejected by God, he is king. King Saul, right? He's rejected by God. And now he is turning into evil, right? Because he wants to kill David. And I'm just shortening up this story. He wants to kill David. And David's response? He said, although I had the opportunity to slay the king, but I'm not going to, because God's anointed. And that's the heart of the king, right? And that's the true king. If you ask me right now, Adnan, what is the heart of the king? I will say the one who is humble. It's forgiving. Big heart enough to acknowledge the mistake. Not petty problems. Let go of the petty problems. Focusing on the big things. Because you know that God have a bigger plan for your life than your own petty problems. Is anybody getting any help? Or I'm just like screaming myself to sleep. If we are dealing with the heart, it is very important to understand the heart. Because often people thinking heart is an organ that's just pumping of blood all over the body. The heart does more than that. Because it just doesn't keep you alive, getting the blood in all different vessels and capillaries in your body, but it also helps you stay healthy. Because if you don't have a healthy heart, you don't have a healthy body. And if you don't have a healthy body, you have to adjust to eating a food that can, help your heart. But that's in a spiritual realm is the same way. Because when your heart is not right with God, when your heart is not aligned with God, no matter where you are, who you are, it will always spew or spread poison. Because when your heart starts spreading poison, then you are destroying lives. Then you're not fit to be a leader. Then you're not fit to be a king. Then you're not fit to be a ruler. Then you're not fit to lead. Then you're not fit to even lead your own family. Because you're living on the wound that you had last year and not getting this wound to heal. Because sometimes some wounds in your life, you just have to leave it alone. You got to leave it alone. You might have a scar, but your wound will heal. You might have a scar on that place, I'm telling you somebody, but the wounds will heal. But the wounds will heal. If your wounds is healed, then you can do better, right? But if that wounds doesn't heal, then you got a problem because that wounds is going to turn into, it's going to spread. And if it spreads, then it's going to damage your body. Then maybe that thing has to be cut off, whether it's wounds in your hand or in your leg. If it starts spreading, what's the solution? Just cut it off. But that's the same way in spiritual life. If you've been wounded in your heart, if somebody wounded you, if somebody hurt you, and you're still in pain, even you remember the hurt today, it's still hurt like it's hurt like it was yesterday. But I'm telling you that it is time for you to let go of some of the toxicity from your heart so you can have a healthy heart, healthy life, healthy relationship. So Proverbs 4:27, keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it springs the issue of life. And same thing, it's if you have an issue in your heart, then you have an issue in your life. If you have an issue in your life, then you have an issue in your personal life. Then you have an issue with every single body. If you have an issue with every single body, then you have a problem in your heart that needs to be fixed, that needs to be challenged, that needs to be corrected, that needs to be penetrated. And only your heart can be penetrated. It is not by the voice of man, but by the voice of Holy Spirit. If you need to invite the Holy Spirit, you got to hear the word of God so your heart can be healed. I want my heart to be healed. I had some hurts, some pain in my life that I had to let go. Because I don't want to have the heart of a petty person, but I want to have a heart of a king. Because the king's heart is like God's hearts. Because God is, the Bible says, is a king of kings. In his heart there is no envy. In his heart there is no jealousy. In his heart there is no malice. In the heart of God there is no hatred. In the heart of
Blessings to you, all my family and friends. This is Adnan Maksud from CTN Houston. I wanted to ask all of you, please consider giving monthly or weekly to CTN Houston because we are doing great things for the Lord here in Houston area. My goal is to have every single person here, whether they are in Houston or outside of Houston, to get to hear the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ. Please share and consider giving. Thank you.